Practice. Am I going to be talking about practice again? Yes, I am. I've got my notes and observations from day 4 of fall camp.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Colkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you are downloading your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation for the show if you're watching on YouTube. It's really important. Become a subscriber. It's easy. It's free. Hit the subscribe button. And what really would help the show out a lot, hit that thumbs up button. And I don't want you to miss one of our 5 episodes that comes at you Monday through Friday. Hit that bell notification and you won't miss one. So here's my whining about practice. Starts early, 6 a.m., which means it's a 4 a.m. wake-up call for me. And for me, that means my body alarm system, it naturally goes off a half hour before I'm supposed to get up. So 3:30 a.m. Good news, though. I got a late afternoon email from one of my favorite people at USC, Sports Information Director, Katie Ryan. Practice got moved back to the afternoon. So, afternoon practice on Thursday as well as on Friday, and I'll be there for both. So, there's the whiny portion of the show for my critics out there. Like I said, I'll have my rant saved up for you on Friday. Be ready. Anyways, let's get to the meat of it. Practice report. That's why you're here, right? You want to hear what went on. So, as I said, early practice Wednesday morning. I got there at campus around 5 a.m. And when I'm getting there, this is when the players and the coaches are starting to arrive for the 6 a.m. scheduled practice. And the players show up on their NIL-provided scooters. Bear Alexander was one of the first guys I saw. He was probably about 5'15". And then starting, or at least right now, first team left guard, Gino Quinones. He showed up. He had his headlight turned on his scooter. So did Dennis Lynch. But this isn't like the biggest NIL benefit. But everybody on the team gets one of these scooters, and they're pretty well equipped. Headlights, turn signals. And those things really do come in handy if they follow the rules of the road, because they're dangerous. Real quick, oh my God, anecdote. So timing is everything, right? I work with Eric McKinney over at wearesc.com, which is where you go when you're not watching Locked On USC first thing in the morning. So Eric gets to USC a little bit after I do, and we park in the Downey parking lot. Well, Caleb Williams, he got to the McKay Center, and apparently he must have left something in his car because he got back on a scooter, raced over to the Downey parking lot, and while Eric is driving around inside the Downey lot, he tells me that he almost hit Caleb Williams, which would have ruined the season. Just kidding. It wasn't that close. However, I will say this. I have seen a lot of close calls with student athletes on their motorized vehicle conveyances, whether it's a scooter, skateboard, bike. These are all motorized now. Yeah, and they are it's good to be young. Anyway, Shorts and Shells Day at practice. For those who aren't aware, when the team is playing at home, the offense wears the cardinal and defense wears the white. So flip-flop it when they're on the road. So that's how you know when an offensive player or a defensive player is coming out, because there's double numbers. Now, I mentioned on a previous episode that Bear Alexander was limited because Lincoln Riley talked about it. Well, he's full go participant now. And during the portions of practice that we were able to watch, he looked pretty good, pretty powerful. Everything that we were all hoping he would be. He's starting to look like all that in a bag of chips. The first coach that I saw was Coach Donte Williams, which is appropriate because we're going to be talking about the secondary, the safeties in the second segment here. But you can tell that it's early because even Coach Donte was almost felt like he was dragging himself in, wearing some slides. He had his hoodie pulled up over his head. He was able to push out a morning, gentlemen. So he was still going through the wake-up phase of the whole thing. And Coach Josh Henson was soon, he followed quickly thereafter. I love listening to him talk. He's got that southern drawl. He's like, y'all are here early. What's really nice is when the coaches recognize which members of the media are making that effort to be out there. And I think he's got to be in hog heaven right now, seeing the difference in the room this year versus last year. The size of the players are just significantly bigger in that offensive line room. You know, after USC wins the national championship this year, I wouldn't be surprised if Henson becomes a highly sought after commodity. And look, I don't know what his coaching goals are in life, but I would have to imagine the next step in his career would be becoming an offensive coordinator. So again, on that note, I was talking about the size of the players. I was watching Alani Noah make his way out to the practice field, and I feel comfortable saying that he already has a college-ready body. What do you think? Take a look at this. Not bad, right? It's a true freshman. I know you can't see below the waist. I'll see if I can get a better picture. But I think right now, he has a chick. Well, I don't want to push it. It's early. I'm just saying that the freshman class of offensive linemen that Josh Henson was partially responsible for recruiting this 2023 class, huge across the board. Big young men. And, even Scott Schrader, he leaned over and he was telling me when we were watching the group, we're starting to look like those Ohio State type of offensive linemen again. Good news. Those are good words to hear. When Justin Dietich was on his way out to practice, he was semi-ready. He was still getting dressed, trying to pull on his shoulder pads and jersey. And he's like, man, he used the F word. I can't say it, but it's effing early. I hope you guys brought coffee. And he was saying it because these guys aren't, well, maybe they are, but going to work when it's dark outside and you got to start getting physical, working up a sweat, and, burning calories. You got to get that blood flowing. And it's easier said than done at that time of day. And I keep mentioning the size of the offensive line room. Justin Dietich, he's the smallest lineman of the group. And he was also just named to the 2023 preseason watch list for the Outland Trophy. So good luck. We're big Justin Dietich fans here. In that group of Outland Trophy preseason watch list, there are 31 offensive tackles, 24 defensive tackles, 24 guards, and only 12 centers. So he's in an elite group. What else can we talk about here from practice that you would be interested in? Oh, Rajon Davis injury report update. Of course you're interested in this. So Lincoln Riley brought it up. He said it happened last Friday, as I mentioned previously. And then he said it's nothing to be overly concerned about. He should be back in a couple of weeks, but he did say he's in his best shape of his life, and he's ready to contribute and as soon as he's cleared. He's probably their best coverage linebacker. He really wanted to emphasize that. As far as, what happened, he's wearing it's just like a black wrap on his left wrist hand area. Nothing like that Shane Lee club hand that we saw last year. And Riley, I also asked him because I noticed someone was missing from practice today, Wednesday. You're watching this on Thursday. Romello Height wasn't there. And I asked Lincoln, anything up? So no, nothing serious. He just, needed a little bit time off. Remember, he's still recovering from that off-season shoulder surgery. So they've had a pretty intense physical camp, and Riley said just need a little bit of time to kind of let the body recover. Everything will be fine, though. When we spoke with Coach Henson after practice, actually, jumped ahead there. When I saw Coach Henson coming out for practice, he was walking with Cooper Lovelace, and they were having a discussion. Cooper was talking about some leadership stuff. And then when we saw the offensive line going through their position group, their drills, here was the first team O-line group on the sled from left to right. Jonah Monheim, Gino Quinones, Justin Dietich, Jarrett Kingston, Michael Tarquin. The second group at O-line, left to right. Again, Elijah Page, Emmanuel Pregnon, Killian O'Connor at center. Michael Ben-Willis was also getting some reps there. Andrew Malek was at right guard, and Mason Murphy was at right tackle. And I also got to see, I mentioned Cooper's name. He's competing for time at that right tackle position this fall camp. I love watching the veterans take the younger players under their wing. I caught Cooper working with Tobias Raymond this time. He was working with him on his footwork, how to open up his hips in pass protection, and especially that hand placement. He was really emphasizing how to incorporate all three, when you're moving your body at the snap of the ball. And I mentioned on yesterday's episode that I made a request to talk to him. So I'm hoping he's going to be on tomorrow's interview request list when we talk to the offensive players. Awesome sight to see Jude Wolf. He is running out to practice, which I don't condone. You're wearing cleats on concrete. It's slippery. Walk to practice. Start running when you hit the grass. I'm just excited for Jude this year. I am when they're out there getting warmed up during the quarterback and the wide receiver, running back, tight ends, when they're warming up against air, there's no defender. They're just running some routes. Jude ran some really crisp, nice routes, finishing with some sure hands. Cade Eldridge, another guy, good hands. Saw him bring one in over his shoulder in the end zone. Keep an eye on Malachi Nelson, freshman quarterback. One of my criticisms, and again, I look at this from a different perspective when I used to coach high school basketball. I look at body language, and, when you know that you are a really good player, sometimes I look for where the motivation is. I'm seeing a difference in Malachi from earlier in the year to now. Looks much more serious. And I also heard that he's in a much better place mentally right now. He's still recovering from his non-throwing shoulder surgery. And he said, he feels good now. He's not quite 100% yet. So, if there was a game tomorrow, he probably wouldn't be able to suit up, but he's getting there. And look, there's no rush, right? It's the pecking order is going to be in this season, Caleb Williams, Miller Moss. If we have to get into a freshman quarterback to take over, probably not having a good year. Oh, and I heard he might have another lucrative NIL deal lined up or already signed. Stay tuned on that one. What else can we talk about that I saw of interest here for you? I'm just going through my notes. I'm just going to throw this out there. Alex Grinch and Cliff Kingsbury, they came out to practice together. Take this however you want. Which one of them will and which one of them will not be at USC next year? Rhetorical question. Give me your feedback. All right. We all know how tall Deuce Robinson is, wide receiver, big tight end, whatever. Flex. He's even bigger with that helmet on. And now I need to see him and Eric Gentry standing back to back so I can see who's actually taller between the two. Following practice today, linebacker coach Brian Odom spoke about Gentry and how his unique size and skill are, they're just so elite and unique. And keep in mind, everybody, he's still learning that inside linebacker position, but Coach Odom loves him. He also loves Tacker Curtis. That is his guy, and good reason. We've all seen what the freshman is going to hopefully develop into. Coach Odom said, we have a saying around here, the ball is more important than the blocker. And what he was trying to emphasize is how Curtis doesn't waste his time getting blocked. His instinct is to, whatever it takes, go get the ball. You just see Coach Odom, the way, how excited he is when he talks about this young man. And he also said that he can deal with any types of mistakes of aggression that freshmen make because he's such a quick study, and he'll learn from those types of mistakes. Another freshman's name who keeps getting mentioned, Christian Pierce. And not just by the coaches, by his teammates. And I can see why. He's already has his helmet's already gold plated. I'm going to talk about him more in the next segment. And I'm also going to be talking about Zion Branch. As you can see in the rundown, I'm going to be talking about the freshman safeties and the secondary. But yeah, Zion is a good-looking specimen. I got a picture to show you in the next segment. Zachariah Branch, really cool. Had a nice play. Looked like he had a one-handed reception when he was over there. I think it was in a punt return. Yeah. The kickoff return group, you had Zion Branch, Quentin Joyner, Rayleigh Brown, and they were rotating back and forth with the punting group as well. That included Michael Jackson III and Makai Lemon. And then as I was watching the defensive back position groups, I'm running late here. This is going to be a little bit extra long show, so bear with it here. I don't think you guys mind letting you know what we're seeing here. The DBs, when they were going through their fundamental drills, they were focusing on angle pursuit and the proper way to break down to make the tackle. First group secondary that I saw, cornerback, Damani Jackson, Sia Wright, and then Bryson Shaw was paired up with Kalen Bullock at the safety, Christian Roland Wallace at nickel inside. He might be that answer. Let me save some of this for the next segment so I don't roll over here. Because, yeah, you know what? Screw the rundown. I'm going to combine. We're already almost 20 minutes in, and I haven't even I'm halfway through my practice report. So I'm going to jump right here and come back to this. All right, we're going to talk about LinkedIn jobs, because these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster, and they're going to do it for free. Just as easy it is to find a job on LinkedIn Jobs, it's also just as easy to post a job listing. Once you've done that, add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and that's going to spread the word that you are hiring. And they give you simple tools like screening questions, and that makes it easy so you can focus on the candidates you want to quickly. And that way you can prioritize who you want to interview and hire. And that way you're recruiting the right person for your team, and that's going to give you a better product. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs, they're going to help you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let me jump back in here to my practice report. Where was I at there? So I was talking about the defensive back group, and I went over the first the first group, the pairings. And here was a really cool quote, Damani Jackson. I'm most definitely back to be my normal, if not better. It's probably the best I felt in 2.5 to 3 years. So I'm just ready. I'm ready. I'm taking rehab and everything more serious. The weight room, film room, just knowing the game more serious. It really helps just locking in, focusing on what you need to focus on, and it really helps when you get on the field, end quote. Each one of the defensive groups, they were working on some sort of form tackling, wrapping up, and they were using the tackling dummies. They're not hitting anybody yet, although way over there in left field on Dato's baseball field, this is where the team is practicing because they can spread out. There's just more room to use. I did notice the defensive linemen working when they were tackling. Those guys, whomever they were hitting, they were landing on a crash pad. So it wasn't a tackling dummy, it was a live person. Eventually, the defensive linemen and the rush ends, they combined their groups so they can work on shedding the blocker. It's a simulation before they're reading the play. They're holding on, holding, reading the play, and then releasing to wrap up the ball carrier. And that's when they would tackle the dummy and take it to the ground. The first group defensive line assignments that I noticed, you had Solomon Tuliapupu, Stanley Taufo, Jack Sullivan, and Anthony Lucas at the rush end. Second group, Dejon Benton, Corey Foreman, I believe it was Bear Alexander, and then Jamil Mohammed at rush end. I want to bring up Corey Foreman's name because Lincoln Riley talked about him after practice, and he made the comment that you can really tell if someone has a passion or the love for the game when you watch him play on film. And he said you can really see that when you watch Corey's film right now. And he really thinks he's going to have a breakout season this year. And that's great news. Everybody's rooting for Corey. If you want to see Lincoln Riley's face light up, kind of like USC's defense got lit up last year, just mention the name Braylon Shelby. Quote, yeah, we wish we all looked like Braylon, said Coach Riley after practice. He continued. He flashes plays here. 5 days in, you see some rushes that you're like, okay, that's what it should look like. You see him pursue and the way that he can open up and run. A guy his size shouldn't be able to do that. There are some things that are really, really, really exciting. There was that emphasis of 3, the rule. Coaches know when they have a special talent. Braylon Shelby is that special talent. The Pac-12 officials were also on hand for practice to kind of help out. And the question was asked of Lincoln Riley during the media scrum, do those guys help you out with discipline? And Riley took the opportunity to make a joke that he wasn't sure how much they helped, but he also wasn't concerned about criticizing the officiating because this time of year, he can't be fined. So it got a chuckle out of everybody in attendance. And look, if Riley needs to find an official to help with practice, I've already talked about it. He can head on over to LinkedIn Jobs. So there you go. All right, I'm going to jump in here to the secondary. You can see I had trap games on here. We'll roll that over to another episode. I want to continue on what I'm seeing at practice because this is, I think, what everybody wants right now. What does the team look like? So the secondary got talked up a lot after practice, specifically the safeties, the freshman safeties, and that includes redshirt freshmen. I said that I mentioned earlier that Christian Pierce's name was getting mentioned a lot around the practice field by the coaches as well as his teammates. Riley said he's pretty impressive for a true freshman. He doesn't know everything yet, but he plays confident. He's flying around. He's one of our more physical players in the secondary and on the defense overall. He brings an attitude with it that you can't always just coach. We're training him at a couple different positions, and he definitely looks like he's going to make an impact on special teams and on defense this year. Zion Branch, this is another guy that USC, you guys, you're going to love him. USC fans. Zion has been chomping at the bit. He was suiting up last year on the sidelines knowing he couldn't play. You want to see what he looks like? Because he's a pretty impressive looking freshman, redshirt freshman, but he's 6'2", 215 pounds. Check him out. That is what's going to be roaming around in the secondary. He might not be as tall as Taylor Mays. I need you to look at those legs, look at those arms. That is going to cause wide receivers and running backs, maybe even some tight ends, to have second thoughts when they're coming across the middle. I don't know if you want to get hit by that. I know I wouldn't. So again, a healthy Zion Branch, who is also a film junkie, and he loves playing physical football. He and his little brother, Zachariah, they watch film and they critique each other. They're also roommates. And watching film, last year, because he wasn't able to play, rehabbing, a lot of mental reps helping him in the fall now, being able to watch all that film. But he did say he's feeling 100%. He's cross-training at each of the different safety positions. So you can see him at free, in the box, maybe over there playing inside. But as I mentioned, he talked about it. He said just to, being suited up and to stand on the sideline with his teammates, even though he couldn't play, it made him feel more a part of the team. Bryson Shaw told us after practice on Wednesday, as far as he's concerned, the safety group is in really great shape for the next few years. I'm talking about Christian Pierce. I've talked about Zion Branch. I mentioned Traquan Fagans, Fabian Ross, Anthony Beavers. And then you got these committed guys that are coming in next year. Marquise Gallegos, Sierra Canyon, Jarvis Boatwright Jr., Braylon Conley. A lot of young talent is going to be coming up through USC in that secondary. There's some quiet confidence that Christian Roland Wallace is going to lock down that nickel spot. I learned that he's actually learning all 5 positions in that USC secondary throughout the fall camp. So that means nickel, both safety, as well as both corners. You like that kind of versatility. What Riley had to say about Christian was he's a fun piece for us. His experience and how smart he is, his skill set, he can play anywhere. He's certainly been impressive in camp. And Christian said, he told us that he doesn't care where he lines up on the field. Wherever you need me, I'm here to do it. Wherever they're willing to put me to help the team, I'm comfortable with wherever. Donte Williams has his own thoughts on the rotation in the secondary. Quote, and I like the way he put this. You have a particular player who is smart, who learns fast, grasps new ideas. We're trying to get the best 5 DBs on the field, whether that's him at safety, corner, nickel, whatever the case may be. We're going to make sure we have the best 5. And then if somebody goes down, you want to make sure you put the 6th best defensive back in, not the next guy at that particular position. So if you have somebody that can learn multiple things and can carry it over and practice and learn those things, you have to take advantage of that. So that's what CRW has brought to the USC's secondary from Arizona. USC also brought over Keon Bars from Arizona. He's going to help that defense. And, the secondary and the defensive line, they work together. The quicker the defensive line creates the pressure and collapses the pocket and gets to the quarterback, the sooner the quarterback has to get rid of the ball, the less time you have to defend a wide receiver, running back, tight end coming out of the backfield, whatever. It's much easier to cover for 2 seconds than it is for 3, 4, 5 seconds. That's just the way it is. You know what else is the way it is? This show is over. It went by like that. So this is why I whine about wanting to see as much of practice as possible, so I can bring you as much information as possible. I'm not whining, folks. I'm being competitive. I'm doing it for you. All right. That's another episode of Locked On USC in the books. I'll be back again with another episode tomorrow with another practice report. I'm going to have some other information for you too as well. Maybe another decommitment, maybe another commitment. Stay tuned. So until that next episode of Locked On USC, everyone, you know what to do, right?